Welcome to the Farmizen Show, where we uncover the delicious interplay between food, farming, and wellness, shaping a brighter, healthier tomorrow. Better for farmers, better for the planet, better for you. Let's dig in. Hey, so welcome to the Farmizen Show, listeners. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with one half of a very inspiring couple, Sudhakar and Naushadya. Sudhakar is here with us today, who are leading a sustainable life on their farm, Vanaavil Farm and Food Forest, which is nestled at the edge of the Western Ghats in Tirunal, Tamil Nadu. They are very passionate about regenerating soil health. And the most interesting thing about them is how at a very, very young age, they are kind of, on the one side, they're living the dream. On the other side, they have actually made a big statement with their life choices, and which we are going to kind of dive deeper into today. And we are going to talk a little bit about their journey, which is very inspiring, and also the realities of sustainable farming, right? How can you actually survive by giving it all up and going to almost a forest and then trying to run a regenerative farm, right? So welcome, Sudhakar. Really happy to have you here.
Thank you.
Cool. So let's get started with the genesis of this all. I mean, what was your initial inspiration in starting Vanaavil Farm and Food Forest? I mean, where did this whole thought process? Were you like, when you were growing up, did it like, one day I'll become a farmer? Was that there any time? When did that moment of inspiration initially, you know what, I should be doing something like this? When did that come about?
Yeah, I don't think there was one single point, but I think education loan, when I paid it back, I had that freedom of time and money to just figure out what to really do impact wise in life. So I think timing wise, it was that point when I had reached a point of financial stability and no debt. That was the point in which I could think about larger things in life than just running from paycheck to paycheck, just running a routine life in urban India. So timing wise, that was crucial, but I had never thought about doing farming as such. Actually, I give a different answer every time I speak to someone, but now if I think about it, during my post-grad days, there was an agriculture project that I had taken up. It was specifically value addition of maize, corn in Punjab. It was a project which I had done along with Punjab Agricultural University. This was during my time in ISB, which you also went to. So it was quite a turning point that way, in terms of I'd never had a exposure into agricultural sector as such, agriculture industry as such, to what state of
Interesting.
agriculture we are in
So would it
currently.
be correct to say that the seed was planted during when you first got exposed to that? At that point of
Maybe,
time, the
yeah,
seed was planted,
definitely.
and then later on, of course, a lot of other things
Of
happened
course.
and stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
before we go in further, maybe it will be useful if you share your background a little bit, right? What did you
Yeah.
do before leaving it all?
Yeah. So I had a very typical urban upbringing, like a lot of people who have, pursued engineering, MBA kind of a lifestyle, right? So born and brought up in Mumbai, and then did my graduation from NIT Rourkela in electrical engineering. Then worked for 5 years in ITC's tobacco division. Then did my postgrad in operations finance from Indian School of Business, and then I worked with Housing.com, a real estate startup, which grew very fast, and then also slowed down very quickly during that period, 2014 to 18. And then Housing.com was when I had paid off the education loan quickly, and thanks to support from my parents, of course. And then I had reached the stage here. Let's do something which has more impact than just me and my family, and just think beyond. There's a lot that needs to happen to educate someone and get reach to a stage where you're convenient, right? Let's help more people get this convenience in life, is what I had started off doing. And Housing.com, real estate for the richest few urban folks, is not something that I had envisioned doing for a long term. So I had worked for 6 months in Milap, in a fellowship along with Naushi, my wife, and Anuj and Mayuk and more people over at Milap. And that's when I actually got my second exposure to agriculture. More people were doing organic farming in and around Bangalore, and talking to people
So
who are
you
working.
left housing.com and you joined Milap.
Milap, yeah.
Milap was your okay,
Milap
got
was
it.
in
So after
fellowship
ISB,
internship.
you went to okay. Okay.
Yeah,
After ISB, you went to housing.com. Then you left
correct.
housing.com and did a Milap fellowship. And that's where I think you got exposed to that there is a lot more to life beyond
Correct.
what we think of in our usual corporate careers, right?
Correct.
Interesting. Okay. And so at Milap is when you met your wife as well, right? So was it
Yes.
like a love at first sight sort of a thing?
No. Actually, we started dating right when when I was about to quit Milab. It was just a 6-month fellowship. So at the last end of the, we actually didn't even date when I was in Milab. We started dating after I quit Milab, and I was volunteering in organic farms in and around Bangalore and Auroville. Yeah.
And then you after leaving Milap, at that point of time, you kind of gathered around your savings, etc., and you said, okay, let me go ahead and buy this piece of land, right? Which was about 10 acres.
11 acres, 11.5 acres. I didn't buy the land directly. I wanted to, when in Milap, I realized that this is something which has much more impact than any one industry that I could be a part of. Agriculture impacts more than 50% of the labor force. Actually, 100% of the population, because everyone consumes food, and it has far reaching consequences compared to any other industry, right? So I volunteered before I jumped into farming or organic farming specifically. I volunteered in several organic farms in near Bangalore, near Mumbai, forest regeneration projects in Auroville, etc. And that 1 year, 2017, was a period of experimentation in all of these farms, and I wanted to figure out if this is something that I want to do long term. That's when eventually I
Got it.
started looking for land.
Got it. So how old were you when you finally left your corporate life and bought this land and did this?
I was 31 when 31 when we bought this land. Right after this 1 year of volunteering, 2018 January is when Naushadya and I got married after a year of dating, and then in July 2018 is when
So basically,
we ended up buying
hang
this
on.
land.
So basically, you retired at 30. You retired at 30 and bought a farm, right?
No, I'm not retired. I'm working more than I would have been working in housing or even ITC. My mind is only on Vivasai's life from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Yeah, it's a quite a hectic life here now.
So how many years has it been, and how old are you now?
It's been 6 years. 2018 is when we bought the land, and I'm 37 now. And the store is only 3 years old, but our life at the farm has been 6 years. We bought the land in 2018, but we moved into the farm in 2020 once we finished construction of the mud house.
Got it. Awesome. So let's go into it step by step.
Yeah.
So what made you choose this particular area to buy the land?
Yeah,
Why did you buy the land here?
So my parents, my father is from Kadayam, which is just 15 kilometers from this land. We started our Tamil Nadu is logically a better choice because the land laws are a little more liberal than the rest of the other states. So even a non-domicile, non-farmer can buy land in Tamil Nadu. So that way Tamil Nadu, and because my one of the languages I speak is Tamil, now she speaks English and Tamil, it meant much more it's much more logical, because without the common language it's much more difficult to create connections with local community, right? So that's why we ended up choosing Tamil Nadu, and within Tamil Nadu, Tirunelveli was the least urbanized, least industrialized, least commercialized district, and therefore it had much lesser land prices despite having higher water availability because of the river Tamirabarni. So that's how we ended up in Tirunelveli district. Within Tirunelveli district, it was just a search for 6 months, looking at different parcels of land, whatever was available for sale at reasonable prices, and this place fit all of those criteria.
And how far is this from the nearest city, Which is the nearest city and how far
Nearest
is it
city is
from there?
Tirunelveli, around 1.5 hours drive by bus, and the major airports are Trivandrum, Madurai, Tuticorin, which are around 4 hours from the farm.
So now, in retrospect, do you think your choice of location was correct, or do you think now that you have lived through 6 more years of at farm, do you think maybe no, you should have bought it somewhere else?
No, I'm
What
very
are your
happy.
thoughts
I'm
about that?
extremely happy to have been here, away from the sounds and the lights of a major city, and I have no regrets. I mean, there is a lot of connectivity now to major cities. I mean, even rural folk, it's easy. I mean, you go to the nearest station. There's Tamil Nadu, especially, has such good bus connectivity, local bus connectivity, and the nearest railway station now is Ambasamudram, which is just 15 minutes from the farm, and there are a couple of direct trains to Chennai and all of that. So the connectivity is not an issue. If I have to go to Chennai, I just book a Tatkal ticket and I can leave tomorrow. And Vande Bharat trains are now even more faster. So connectivity, thankfully, I mean, there's
Right.
been much more upgrading that has happened, and it's not really a problem.
Right.
Yes.
And I think your timing was actually great in terms of buying the land, because the last 2-3 years the land prices have gone so high and things like that, right? I think
Yes.
it was good. If you had chosen to say, no, let me, I will retire at, okay, let me not use the word retire, although it's how it creates a good byline, right? Retire at 30 and become a farmer.
I understand.
Everybody likes to hear that. But as you said, that the reality is that you actually end up working harder, but you end up having more fun as well. You end up being more fitter. You end up having a lot more meaning to your life as well, right? So you are now what, 37?
Yes. I'm 37.
Okay.
Correct.
Cool. And your kid was actually born at the farm itself, right? While you were staying at the farm, right?
Yes. Once you moved into
And
the house,
you're planning
at the farm,
got it. You're planning to homeschool her?
as of now, yes. She's just 2.5 years old, so at least till the age of 5, in a setup like this in the farm, there is much to learn. With the house, with the farm, with the cows, with the pond, and with the agriculture that's happening, there's enough learning opportunity for the first 5 years easily. And now with the guest house that we are building, I'm sure we'll have a lot of people coming in. We have 9 people working at the farm. We have a small homesteading community, homeschooling community around. So I'm sure she's going to be in the best of hands.
Right. But tell me something, Sudhakar. So, I mean, I also went to ISB, right? Like you, we share the same alma mater. We did our MBA there. So, like when you look at your batchmates, right, who graduated maybe 8, 9, 10 years ago, somebody is working in London, somebody is working somewhere else. People are making lots and lots of money, right? So how do you reconcile yourself to that? Do you get any second thoughts at any point of time saying that you have chosen a harder path? Is that something that bothers you at all?
Yeah, so it's a matter of perspective, right? I mean, I'm making lots of money actually, if you ask me, because my needs are so low now that when I look at my needs, the amount of economic opportunity that I'm generating for not just for myself but for the 9 people that who are working at the farm, I'm actually creating a lot of value. So what you think of money is actually value, right? It's important for you to create value, and we have misunderstood we have equated money as the only measure of value, whereas value can be several other things.
It's a means to an end, right?
Correct.
End of the day, money's value is because it helps you get something, right? It helps you achieve certain things that you want in your life, right?
Correct.
The problem comes, I think, when we say that money is the end goal. It's just a means. It definitely is very useful. It helps you get to that goal. But if you're clear about your goal, then fixating on money probably does not make sense, right?
Correct.
Right.
So what you need to create is value. Value can be economic value, cultural value, social value, and many more things, right? Yeah.
Right. So what do you think that Sudhakar, when he is 50 years old, right? What would you have want to what sort of impact would you have loved to create with your life in the next 12, 13 years? How are you thinking about it? If you have thought about it, it's okay. It might be that you are like,
definitely.
Okay, you don't have to.
No, definitely. Yeah. I mean, you keep thinking about the long term, and now that you have a child, you think about long term even more. And the entire purpose of moving to a farm is to create a more sustainable ecosystem for more generations, right? Whereas that's not what everybody in the cities are thinking. It's very short-term thinking that is guiding more of our decisions and choices right now, right? So long-term thinking is always there in the back of our minds whenever we think about choices and decisions that we are making on a daily basis, right? So the two things that we are focusing on right now, or maybe three things. One is at the farm level, you want to grow as much food as for yourself and the people who are working at the farm, right? So we are not there yet. We are not even, as a family, we are probably 50% there. In terms of the producing food for the rest of the people in the farm, we are not even 20-30% there, right? So we want to reach to probably 70% or 80% in another 10 years, right? And it's a tough journey because it's taken us 60-70 years for us to disconnect every individual from the food system and create a more globalized system. So getting back to a local food system will take at least one lifetime worth of work, right? And then with the we are right now focusing very much on agriculture, growing food, right? Whereas regenerating a forest like ecosystem where you can also create impact beyond humans, we are of course creating impact on other species. There's more life in the soil, and there's more life in the farm compared to earlier. But there's one vision of also regenerating a small patch into a wild forest where we can host more wild species rather than just domesticated species. That's one vision that we have for us. With the online store that we are doing right now, we are just supporting 20 local farmers, intermediating the supply chain as much as possible. Probably expand that to more organic farmers, inspire more organic farmers to practice what we are doing with local agricultural systems, right? And then now with the guest house that we are building, we want to probably host more people, inspire more people to lead more simple, minimalistic lives, connect more with the land, connect more with the soil and other species around us. So that's what we have been thinking is the long term goal that we have.
Got it. Got it. Got it. How's life at the edge of the forest? Can you describe to me your like daily one day in the life of Sudhakar and Naushadya? What
Yeah,
does a
so
usual day look like?
yeah, so we as a farm we have evolved quite a bit in terms of we have SOPs in place now as to what is Naushi's responsibilities, what is my responsibilities. There are two people running the farm shop, there are two people running the animal shed, there are five people working in the rest of the farm. So we have responsibilities mostly clearly cut out. So we people come to work at 9, so morning 6 to 9 is mostly time with the with Vanya and with just figuring out our daily routine stuff, cooking food so that we are able to breakfast and lunch, so that we are able to spend most of the time between 9 to 5 at the farm with the people who are coming for work. And so 6 to 9 is mostly preparation for the day. 9 to 5 is when all of us work together. Now she and I are more in supervisory role now that we have a team of 9 people. We join hands with whoever needs help at the farm. Between 9 to 5, mostly it's almost like a rigorous 9 to 5 job now, if you really think about it. We want to get most of the work done between 9 to 5, so that after 5 again we can go out to the pond and relax with Vanya, or spend time playing with her in and around, play with the dogs, meet other people similar to us who are do barter with them, go meet them at their house, exchange stuff and exchange stories and all of that. So
I
that's
think
what a
every
typical day
week
looks
you
like.
guys have you guys all meet local farmers and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
There's something
Yeah,
that goes on
we
with
have a potluck every month, not
complete.
every week, but we meet every day. Someone visits my farm, or we visit someone else's house or farm who are leading a similar life like us. We also have a community lunch with the people who are working at the farm. So almost once every 2 weeks, we have some kind of potluck or community lunch that keeps happening at.
So I know this
Yeah.
is going to be a strange question, but how frequently do you take vacations? I mean, it's a strange question because you are. I could argue that you are already on a vacation 365 days a year,
No, no,
even
no.
though
So
it's a
we,
working vacation.
of
But
course, I
yeah.
understand. So this year onwards, this is the 6th year. First 5 years was much more rigorous in terms of setting up the farm from scratch and setting up that online store business from scratch, right? So this year onwards, I got to attend the 10-year reunion with the ISB classmates in February, March this year. Went to Manali, Amritsar, etc. We had enough people in the farm. My parents parents come in to support whenever we are outside. Naushi's parents come and support us whenever we are outside. We are going to Tanjore, Naushi's birthplace, to show Vanya around next 5 days. So we are able to take 2 to 3 vacations now that the farm is established and is in a stable mode. Yeah.
Got it. And your parents are still in Mumbai, right?
Yeah, they spend half of the time here, 6 months, 4 to 8 months, based on the year and based on what's happening in Mumbai with my sister. And also, they spend half of the time here and half of the time in Mumbai. They have been a tremendous pillar of support in whatever we have achieved at the farm.
Got it. Interesting. Cool. So let's change tack a little bit and, tell me all of this interesting stuff around palm trees. I know that you're obsessed with palm trees. Why are you obsessed with palm trees?
Yeah, so agriculture overall is very resource intensive, energy intensive. When I say resource intensive, it's mostly fossil fuel energy intensive and manufacturing intensive ever since the green revolution or post independence. I don't know if it's independence truly, because we are now dependent on global trade for conducting the most basic need of human existence, agriculture, right? So one of the objectives with the local organic agriculture is to be independent of external resources, right? And the Palmyra tree, in terms of producing food and roofing and fiber, etc., is a very resource efficient tree. It doesn't need any pesticide, it doesn't need any fertilizer, it doesn't need any irrigation. It's a tree which provides abundance much more than, I would say, it's more resource efficient even more than the coconut tree, because inland where we are in Tirunelveli, coconut tree is not really coconut is more native to coastal areas, right? Whereas Palmyra grows even in inland India without any irrigation. So it's Karpagataru or Kalpataru in Tamil, right? So it provides an abundance of resources with while asking for very little in return. That's why I'm obsessed with the Palmyra tree. We make Palmyra jaggery, we make Palmyra sprouts, we make Palmyra fruit leather. Now this year, the roofing that you see, the thatch that you see here is Palmyra thatch. The roofing of the entire mud house as well as the guest house that we have built is Palmyra wood. And this is just scratching the surface. The fiber that you see right here, that's also Palmyra. It's from the Palmyra fronds. The leaves are Palmyra leaves, but the fiber is from the Palmyra fronds. It's manually taken one by one from a Palmyra frond. So the amount of the soil health that you would see around the Palmyra tree when we just bought the land itself, the best soil health was, without us doing anything, was found to be around the Palmyra tree. So the trees that we planted next to the Palmyra tree are produce the maximum amount of wood or fruit based on whatever timber or fruit trees that we planted, right? So the amount of life that it helps in harboring, because of the amount of biomass it generates, even though it takes time 20-25 years to produce fruit, and it lives up to 200-250 years long. The amount of life it harbors.
So basically, for example, if you plant new Palmyra trees now, Vanya will be able to enjoy the fruits, really.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
It's kind of like that, right?
Or if I live long enough, maybe me too. Yeah.
Right. So, but I mean, do you think the government, etc., is talking enough about the Palmyra tree? I mean, what's the catch? Why aren't more people talking about it? Why aren't more people aggressively using it? Why is palm jaggery still a nice specialty produce sort of a thing, right? Many of the things that you talked about are all very specialty produce.
Yeah.
Not okay.
Yeah.
Got it. And I mean, in general, is the amount of Palmyra related production increasing in India, or is it reducing? Is the number of these trees reducing in India? What's your gut feel? I don't know if you.
So Tamil Nadu state tree is Palmyra. right. So, and last few years there has been a lot of impetus given by the state government. Also, they have started supporting a lot of these artisans who are making products from Palmyra trees and leaves and Palmyra jaggery and all of that. So there is some impetus which is being given, right? So, but over the years, over the last 60 years, 70 years post independence, the focus, subsidies or support, policy support, etc., has been towards mechanized, industrialized forms of agriculture or services or industry, everything, right? So, uh, whereas Palmyra, it's much more difficult to mechanize the entire process because it's a large tree. The capex that you would need to probably ensure that it is mechanized is also much larger. So, it's one of the last remaining frontiers of handmade agricultural produce, if you ask me. Uh, so it doesn't
Hmm.
support industrialization. I think that is the key feature which is preventing it from achieving scale. In fact, that is the key feature
Hmm.
which has helped reduce the prominence or the popularity of Palmyra products. Because if you look at Tamil Nadu, the popularity of Palmyra as a scale of as a proportion of the total goods that you are consuming has been going down year by year. Because compare sugar, for example, with Palmyra jaggery. Sugar is 40 rupees kg, whereas a good quality Palmyra jaggery will be between 400 to 600 rupees, right? So, uh, whereas it's a
Hmm.
very subsidized product. The sugar that you consume, refined sugar that you consume, is a very subsidized product because petrol is subsidized. So, plowing the fields is subsidized. Um, the fertilizer is subsidized almost 90 to 100%. So,
Yeah.
the way sugarcane
So
is
the
grown is
Palmyra tree does
subsidized.
not need fertilizers, etc. The
No, I mean,
Palmyra
you
tree
don't need
does
to do
not need
anything. Not
fertilizers.
at all. Not at all. No
Okay.
urea, no
And it
DAP,
is
no
not also
compost.
very water intensive. It is
Not at all. I don't irrigate them
okay.
at all.
Okay. And
I
it is
don't irrigate
not
them at all.
okay. Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. And it is not
Yeah.
like it sucks up. It's not like eucalyptus, which sucks up a lot of water from there. It's not
No,
really
no,
like
no,
that,
no,
right?
no.
It's
Not at all.
uh,
Not at all. Not at all.
hmm,
It has been here. So Palmyra is mostly
interesting.
native to
Interesting.
was native to Africa. Now it's native to India as well, and it is found throughout South India, and it's ubiquitous. I mean, you need to really battle it if you really want to eliminate that tree from our lives. Uprooting it is also difficult. So if you actually leave it be, it will continue to proliferate. If you stop, drilling the land around the Palmyra, they'll start sprouting up in no time again. Yeah,
Got
it's
it.
very,
Got it. Got it.
yeah,
Got
yeah.
it. Interesting. So when you bought your farm, there were already a lot of Palmyra trees in it, is it?
Yes. Yes, yeah, there were around
Okay.
100 trees, and we don't feel the need to propagate even more because we want diversity and we
Got it.
have introduced many more trees. And yeah, whatever little
Got it.
propagation is happening on its own, we
Can
don't
you
need to
also
do.
like cultivate vegetables near the Palmyra trees, etc.? Can you cultivate vegetables there? Do
So
people do
annual
that?
crops we can't do near the Palmyra trees. We have Palmyra trees on the edges of our rice fields, and we don't want to uproot them. Annual crops prefer more sunlight, vegetables, pulses, and rice fields. You generally typically see that you'll not have fruit trees on the edge, right? So it's not the best way, and the Palmyra leaves keep falling on their own every few months during the drier periods, even more, right? So cultivating vegetables is much more difficult around a Palmyra tree. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And how do you compare the Palmyra tree with something like coconut, for example?
Much less water intensive. Yeah. So coconuts, if you want them to remain alive in setting like ours, arid Tamil Nadu, it's very difficult because even one or two drought years back to back, a lot of trees start dying on their own because it's a very water intensive tree, right? It evolved in a coastal climate where the relative humidity was always high, and the water availability in the root zone was also quite significant, right? So it's not a tree we are forcibly cultivating it inland because of abundance of irrigation techniques, but Palmyra needs nothing of that sort. Of course, the nutrition that both of them provide are also much different. Coconut provides more fat than Palmyra. Palmyra is mostly for the sweetener and the fiber in its root crop, and several other things like roofing and.
Cool. Okay. Okay. Let's switch gears again and let's talk a little bit about. So when you bought the farm, what sort of infrastructure was there in it already? And then how did you phase it out? what did you do step by step over the years? What was your
Right.
focus for year one? What was your focus for year two? Can you walk us through that in
Sure.
terms of? So I would really love to know, like, did you use things like green manuring, any particular techniques,
Sure.
like the CVR technique, or all sorts of these different things to improve soil?
Sure.
How did
Sure.
you go about it step by step? If you can walk us through, it will be useful.
Right. Yeah, so we bought a land which had around 50 odd neem trees, 100 odd Palmyra trees, 50 odd coconut trees. That was the only infrastructure available at the farm when we moved in. And we had a small repair animal shed which needed some repairing. It had a storeroom and a well. That's all that there was at the
There was
farm.
no borewell.
No borewell. I don't even have a borewell now because we are focusing mostly on water conservation techniques rather than water intense techniques. So the open well suffices for around 5.5 acres of intense cultivation throughout the year. So and that water requirement. There's a pond nearby, so we get irrigation from the pond. So in terms of soil, thanks to neem and coconut and palmyra, there was a lot of biomass which was already getting produced. It was a very specific type of biomass which termites love. And termites are actually very good soil builders. So when we first planted trees in the 2.5 acres that we identified for the food forest, we had enough material for mulch from these trees. And because we did a rice crop in the first year itself, we got some mulch from the hay as well. Even before we planted trees, we did a green manuring throughout the entire land, and even in our annual crops fields with a mixed green manure, millets and pulses and methi and all of that. The mix green manure that you want to do to rebuild soil health, right? So mulching, green manuring, and the third most important thing is composting, which is I would argue more important than green manuring and mulching, because for you to restore the soil health which has been abused for say 30 years since post liberalization with pesticides and fertilizers, and where the soil carbon was just 0.15%, for you you to restore that to 1%, you need something much more intensive like composting. And the easiest way to compost is with animal manure in a setup like India, right? So we got cows in the first year itself. We got 3 cows, and now we have around 22 cows. And making compost with cow dung and whatever other palm leaves and coconut leaves and neem leaves, and a lot of biomass producing perennial plants that we planted. Other than the annual green manure that you plant, we also did a lot of planting of perennial plants which we still have at the farm: vetiver, lemongrass, Indian lemongrass, pongamia, gliricidia, subabul, Mexican tree spinach, Mexican sunflower. These are the 7 species that we planted abundance in the first year in our food forest and in our coconut grove as well. So they have been producing even now a lot of biomass. They help us produce income also in terms of herbs that they produce, and also we also sell the cuttings now. So soil health wise, we've relied on these 3 techniques: mulching, green manuring, and composting, which also is linked to all of these. So the compost that we produce is extremely rich because the fertility that the cows and the chicken help converting all of the waste into rich compost is like really amazing. And from 0.15 to 1.1% in 6 years has been just mostly because of the combination of these 3 techniques, with a special emphasis on compost. With the compost, 2 things that we do additionally now, even after 6 years, we have not yet fixed our phosphorus levels in the soil. So we have now started adding bone meal and charcoal, activated charcoal. Not charcoal, we add charcoal, and adding charcoal to the green manure also activates it. So it ensures that more nutrients and more microbes are held in the soil. So purely in terms of soil health, these are the 3 techniques that we have used to improve soil health. Yeah. Yes.
Cool. And so while you are doing this, while you are setting up the farm, do you think you made any mistakes that you would want to share with people, that, okay, this is something I think I made a wrong decision. I should have done this differently during this whole process.
Yeah. So Mistakes, I think we keep realizing our mistakes and we keep correcting also. So we didn't do a lot of soil tests in the first couple of years. We just like, we want more trees. I mean, that's not the solution all the time for, every farm. For example, we have very clay soil in the 2.5 acres foot forest that we have actually built right now. It's mostly very clay soil. You can still do a lot of plantation in clay soil, but if you would have focused the first 2 years in building soil health to improve the porosity of the soil, and the trees would have probably gotten established much better. The first 2 years we had to spend a lot of time taking care of those trees, whereas if I had improved soil health first and then planted trees, probably the trees would have done better, right? So that is one thing that
Understood.
purely from soil health term, we could have probably done better. Water management, we have not had to do much because this is a very ancient land, as in ancient, it has been cultivated from ancient times. I'm sure because there is a rainwater fed pond close to it, so I'm sure the land management in terms of how the gradient is and how all of these were planned perfectly, and I didn't have to do any interventions there. So water management, I didn't have to do much, and for that I have to thank our ancestors and whoever took care of the land before this. From our houses perspective, the house that we built, we made a lot of small mistakes. It was our first construction, and we made a few errors here and there, and we spent more than probably we would have had to if we had some experience or hired an expert who was much better at doing this than us, or the people who joined us. That there I think I could have had more patience and more wisdom rather than hurrying up and building a house just to
Got it.
move into the farm.
Got it. Got it. If I may ask, have you reached a stage now where you are not dipping into your savings anymore?
So now I think the business is running on its auto mode. We are at a break-even stage, and whatever profits we are able to make from the farm, we are able to pay the wages of the employees, etc. But we are still dipping into the savings because we are building a guest house now. So that's the next step. 5 years we had stabilized the farm, right?
So for
and,
the capex, you are still using your savings for
of
capex
course,
essentially.
of course, of
Got it.
course,
Got
yes,
it.
yes,
But
yes.
operationally, you are break even, right? So it's
Yes,
not
yes.
like if you have to stop all capex and keep it running, it can run for
Correct.
infinity now, right?
Correct. But
Because
now, if
you
we
come
want to
from
do
the
more
startup world,
research,
right? So,
yeah,
so you have
yeah,
an
definitely.
infinite runway now.
Yeah, definitely. But for example, if I want to do some research, I want to do some pilot experiments, etc., I would probably have to still spend out of my pocket, which I think I'm okay with. Right? There are small experiments which are not as expensive as a tech startup would have to do. So I'm okay with spending whatever little extra money on wages to conduct these experiments. Yeah.
What were some of the things which you did not expect in this journey? Which, like when you came in, you obviously came in with some sort of a thing in your mind that, okay, these are the challenges that I will see. These are the problems that I'll see. This is probably what I'll really like.
Yeah.
So that mindset that you came in with, and then during the journey, obviously some things turn out very differently. So which were those things which you were like, oh, I did not expect this at all? Was there something like that?
Yeah. So culturally, I didn't have much of a problem because of the language uh, that I thought I had enough skill of. But because I'm whatever Tamil I learned was from my grandmother in a setting in Mumbai. The Tamil that I speak was actually very broken Tamil for the colloquial compared to the colloquial use of Tamil here, right? So, in fact, even Naushi, who was born and brought up in Tamil Nadu, had a trouble for the first few months and really understanding certain words that the people who were working at the farm, or even people who we were interacting with in a daily basis in the town, right? So language wise, even though you know a certain language, it's not necessarily that you will be able to use the same skill right away. So that there was a steep learning curve there, and thankfully, I mean, at least it was not a totally different state that we were going and practicing agriculture in, so that was not as much of a problem. But even now I still fumble for words that so if it would help, definitely, for example, if you would practice agriculture in a place that you are very, you have been a part of culturally. But for most of urban India, you have disconnected from your native place for so long that assimilating back into that culture will take some time. So that expectation, I think has to be managed that way. And I think we managed to do that fairly well. um, Other than that, I think nothing else comes to mind right away. I think, yeah, all of these small issues keep cropping up, and we are just trying to keep our head as close to the ground, and we are trying to take them one issue at a time. Yeah,
Got it.
yeah, yeah.
How's your health been now compared to 6 years back?
Yeah, so
Has your metabolic age reduced?
yeah, definitely. I mean, when I was in housing, I was thankfully I realized the need to improve my health when I was working with housing.com right after the right of my MBA days. And I started that work improving my food, and probably that was a part. That was one of the reasons why I moved here as well, because I realized that my health was taking a toll. I was not eating well. My sleep habits were not great. Even the rigor of the MBA, is so intense that your sleep takes a toll and all of that. So that, I think, the right post MBA, I realized the need for a good food habits, good sleep habits, and good physical health needs. Right. So that realization actually, I think, has helped me move to this kind, because a farming journey, you need to be not just mentally here, but you need to be physically also here. You need to be able to respond to emergencies. You need to be rush whenever something happens, right? For example, if a snake, suddenly someone finds
So
a
that's
snake
about
and
the
you have to.
physical health, but and what about, right? What about the mental health angle of it, right? Are you
Yeah.
feeling that your stress levels, because even in farming, you are still being very busy, right? Now, are you still, do you still have stress like we usually have in corporate life? How do you see the last 6 years from a mental health perspective?
Yeah, so I definitely, I think I'm feeling much I think I'm much at peace with myself than I was, say, 6 years back. Of course, the kind of stress you would take in farming is much different than what you would take in a urban scenario with a comfortable, convenient monthly paycheck. Um, the stress here is mostly now because of climate change and whatever news you are reading in terms of sustainability, more than really the other aspects of urban living, right? So I think I take more stress about sustainability of agriculture than anything else. Not really. Of course, the stress that you are accustomed to in terms of money, is always there, because it's a thing that you have to keep, because the rest of the society is aligned to a certain way of thinking. You have to align to that way of thinking, if not completely, at least partially, right? So the stress of whether the thing that you are doing with it, whether it is going to provide continuous economic, cultural, social value, even will it stand the test of time, that always is there, because you're going to hand over whatever you are doing to your future generations. You need to be very careful about your choices accordingly, and act accordingly, right? So that, I think, most of my stress is around sustainability of agriculture and human life, and how we are going to hand over to future generations, than whether we are going to have a convenient life, or all of that, right? Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So I see
yeah.
also another very interesting interplay between. So on the one hand, you are adopting a lot of traditional techniques. You are reviving a lot of different traditional food items which we have forgotten about, or which we ate only in our childhood. And Viva
Right,
Size Life, your online store, kind of has been bringing a lot of those in front of people and making it accessible to people living in Bangalore, Chennai, and rest of India
right,
as well.
right.
So there is one angle to it where you have you seem to be liking a lot of traditional old style stuff, and you think that there is a lot of value which is there, which we are
Correct,
kind of losing. At the
correct.
same time, on the other hand, you are also using modern techniques, right? For example, you have your WhatsApp groups, you have your broadcast groups,
Yeah,
you are on Shopify,
yeah,
and so on and so forth, right? You are on
yeah.
Insta and social
I'm on
media and things
Farmizen.
like that.
Yeah.
Correct, on Farmizen
Yeah,
as well,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
now, do you see any sort of a, like, at the farm level as well? right?
Yeah.
Are you focusing completely on traditional techniques and using those, or is there some modern but sustainable techniques also which you are bringing into your farm? Um, is there a marriage of tradition and modernity at the farm as well, or is it purely 100% traditional? How do you look at from the farm angle?
No, so I think we mix and match. I mean, it's important not to be dogmatic and say that I'm going to only use manual labor and I'm only going to use traditional techniques and
Hmm.
not do anything modern, right? So it's
Hmm.
very important to just stay focused on the end outcome and try to use a mix of techniques. Of course, but you have to recognize that the carbon emissions of probably and the environmental impact of each of the decisions that you make, but you need to make the right choices based on whatever local customs and your own spending capability and all of that, right? So for example, for a rice crop, we have been always doing a tractor run. All right, so we need a tractor at the farm for our 1 acre rice fields thrice a year. Once just for half an hour for my rice nursery, for then for plowing the entire 1 acre rice fields, and then for after rice cultivation for my pulses crop, right? Now, for my rice nursery, I have this year employed a traditional bull plow, right? Plow with bulls, because it's just a very small plot and it costs the same. For example, just 1,000 rupees if I would have called a tractor for half an hour versus employing a guy with a bull. This money that I spend with the bull is going to be local, whereas the money that I paid the tractor is going to the banks and the fossil fuel companies, which are eventually going for, which are mostly imported from, overseas, right? So, um, I might not. I will still employ a tractor for the 1 acre rice fields, but for this rice nursery, I've made a shift. For the rice harvest, for example, I don't employ a combiner harvester because the first couple of years when I employed a combiner harvester, it damaged a few trees and I had a very sour experience. So I've always harvested, and the amount of soil compaction that a combiner harvester is going to do is much more. Whereas harvesting by hand, the money is going to go back into the community directly as wages to the people, right? So it might be slightly more expensive, which I can communicate to my customers and recover in the price of the product, right? So I would rather harvest by hand. But at the same time, I don't thresh it by hand. There is a paddy thresher which I got all the way from Kolkata, West Bengal, where East India there is that pedal operated paddy thresher which has always been, at least for the last 40 years, it has been used. I got that transported by
Oh, so you
5,000.
bought one of that for your farm?
Yeah, I couldn't find it in South India. So now, instead of harvesting, which is the traditional technique in South India, even in West Bengal, I'm sure the technique would have been threshing by hand, but they discovered a mix of technology and, without fossil fuel. They invented a technology which uses manpower but eases the upper body uh, you know uh, effort that would be
Effort.
needed.
Hmm.
So pedal operated is much easier, right? I know friends in Jivantika in Madhya Pradesh. They have harvested their wheat crop in less than half an acre every year with a sickle. Right, I bought a sickle, but I have not yet used it. So that's something for probably. But sickle was never. Sorry, scythe. Scythe. It with 1 acre, one for.
That big sky thing.
Yeah, that big sky thing. Whereas it's imported from, it's also technology, right? It's imported from Europe, but India
Hmm.
traditionally never used scythe. Whereas if in India you traditionally harvested by sickle, and 10 people need to spend 1 day to harvesting an acre, whereas a scythe, just one person can do that with a very smart action, right? So I bought a scythe, but I'm not yet used. Probably
Hmm.
this year's harvest I'll use a scythe and see if it works better, right? So it's always figuring out what techniques work best for you and the people working at the farm, and try to learn from whatever YouTube and Google. You can use all of the knowledge available in Wikipedia, etc., and best practices with least fossil fuel consumption, most sustainable practices is
Right.
what we want to
So, do you
figure out.
think? So, you mentioned that you had spent a lot of time interning with various organic farms, etc.
Yeah.
Um, do you think you would have been able to still do all of this if you had not done that? If you had not done those internships, etc. Uh,
It helped me actually
or do you think
talking
that
to a lot of.
really, really helped you?
talking to a lot of people actually helps you clear your mind, and just figure out an approach that works best for you. It gives just a different perspectives of how to think about an issue. Eventually you'll have to think for yourself in the context of the farm that you are going to actually manage, right? So but that journey definitely
Hmm.
helps in shaping your perspective. Krishna's farm in Solitude Farm in Auroville helped me a lot in thinking about zero till, how to manage a farm without tilling the land. He still doesn't employ a single machinery to manage his land, right? So, and a lot of my learnings are from the
Hmm.
4 or 5 months that I spent with him, and Oro Orchard, how to in Auroville helped me how to think about vegetable cultivation very intensely over a period of time. The forest regeneration from Sadhana Forest and Vanwadi, they're totally different soil building techniques. So it volunteering at multiple different farms helps you give different perspectives. You can then pick and choose from each of them whatever you like the best. So volunteering is something that I would definitely recommend to everyone. I'm hosting one volunteer at the farm right now, and I would want people to go to different farms before eventually, if this is a life that you're seeking, just go to different farms and learn from as different people as you can.
So, what other advice do you? This is definitely one big piece of advice that
Yeah,
go and volunteer at farms.
yeah,
But what other advice would you give to people who are stuck in a 9 to 5 job and
yeah,
want to do want to transition to a 9 to 5 farming effort? What
yeah.
advice would you give them?
Yeah, don't
What are the
take any
top two or
house
three
loan,
things
car
other
loan,
than the
etc.
volunteering?
Don't take any house loan or car loan, which is which you'll need to pay the rest of your life with your salary. I think that was the biggest plus that I had compared to anyone else, because I know a lot of people who even call me that I want to lead a simple life, I want to lead a minimalistic life, I want to just go serve the relatives and people that I know in my village. I have built enough of my life in this Chennai or Bangalore or wherever they are right now, but they can't take that step to move to their village because they have a lot of debt, and but they have some land, but
Hmm.
that runway that you need to even forget agribusiness, yeah, any business that you want to do, you want a certain amount of financial capability before you can hit a break even point or whatever, right? So, and unfortunately in agriculture no one wants to spend money in that initial capex. No government would want to give you policy support, or no bank will give you land to buy land and set up those 5 6 years. You're on your own, because the entire economy is
Hmm.
not geared towards a smallholder organic farmer, right? It wants to mechanize, industrialize, large scale farming, contractual farming, etc., right? Which is totally against nature, and we know that it is going to exacerbate climate change and all of that. So the problem is those first 5 to 7 years is you need financial capital to really to secure yourself as a family before. So don't take any 1 crore house loan in Chennai and Bangalore. The same investment of 1 crore that I would have taken to buy a 1,000 square feet land, house in, I've spent to buy a 5 lakh square feet land, build a 1,000 square feet home, a compost toilet, buy cows, buy chicken, buy installed a solar plant, installed a biogas plant, right? So even purely from an economic returns perspective, buying land, building a house yourself with your own hands, and reinvesting in the community, in local community, is much more even economically in the long run.
So you said let's riff on this community angle a little, right? So
Yeah,
few questions. So first is like when you came in, obviously, although you spoke the language, but you were
yeah,
still an outsider, right?
yeah.
Um, I'm assuming that people there do conventional farming, or does everybody else also do organic and regenerative? No, most people probably do
Oh,
conventional farming there,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
In
yeah, yeah,
your village.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So how did they? What was their reaction? Okay, this young 31-year-old fellow has come here suddenly, and he's saying, okay, I did a engineering, I did a MBA, I was in Mumbai, I have never done farming before. I'm now going to do farming and homesteading in 11 acres of land. I'm going to grow rice. I'm going to grow a forest. All sort of things. What do they? What was their first reaction?
Yeah, so whenever they said, whenever, so farming is actually, if you ask me, conventionally is much more easier. Okay, because you have SOPs in place. You have a tractor guy, you have a guy who applies pesticides. There are fertilizer shop where you can go buy seeds from. There are people who do very focused on rice, women who do only rice transplanting. There are people who do bunds for rice fields. So it's very clearly demarcated. There's a very very hierarchical, very fragmented social structure for agriculture. Everyone does their own job and everyone knows what to do, right? So industrial agriculture is actually very easy right now. If you want to go practice industrial agriculture, even a newcomer comes to a local area, you'll have any kind of expertise to do whatever you want. You just consult. Of course, you'll fail for say 2 crops or 3 crops maximum, and then you'll probably hit the stride, and then probably you'll make some money, or if the rain and climate and all of that favors you, you'll make some return on investment of whatever you put in every year. Mostly you'll make a loss. The money is mostly going to the middlemen, the traders, etc., and the fertilizer companies. Very few farmers make a profit. Whatever farmers make a profit, they're probably large farmers and all of that. Small farmer right now has to hold multiple jobs. He has to do farming, and he has to do construction also, and he has to do some
It's
trading
kind of
also
like
to
the,
really make money.
as they say in Vegas, right? That it's all the house always wins, right? So the casino
Yeah,
always
yeah,
wins.
yeah,
You
yeah,
as a
yeah,
player sometimes win, sometimes lose, but the
yeah,
casino
yeah,
always wins. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
farming always reminds me of Las Vegas casinos, you know?
Exactly. The share market is at an all-time high. The fertilizer companies are at all-time high, and you still listen to the stories of farmers. There are still protests happening. You now see rice has been overproduced again. This time in Punjab, procurement has taken a hit, and all of that. I mean, we are saddled our farming system with overproduction, and the farmer doesn't make money, but the person who buys, the farmer takes the maximum amount of risk and he gets the least amount of return, right? So that's the system that we have built right now. So everyone who came, when we came, you said you do farming slowly, you do industrial farming, change to organic farming slowly. What is the hurry? I mean, organic farming, you reduce the amount of fertilizer, pesticide every year, and you increase the amount of organic manures over a period of time. That was the advice all the nearby farmers gave to me. Some people was like, why are you doing farming? Like, I mean, most people were shocked as to why would you quit a comfortable cozy life in Mumbai and with a comfortable paycheck that you are getting every day and coming like this. But yeah, I mean, if you know the amount of work that is needed to be done to really reinvent the food system, you have to just be be on your toes all the
And
time
how
and just
has that changed? Has that opinion about you or what you are doing, has that changed after these last 6 years?
of
Are
course. So
some people
I
turning around and saying, hey, you know what you are doing is very awesome. Can I do it as well? Can you tell me how to do
So
it?
a couple of people who have probably gotten inspired and made a few changes to some of their practices. I wouldn't go as far to say, because I'm still we are very new. And over the 6 years of the farming journey, our first years, couple of years focus was building the house, getting the fence up, getting basic infrastructure in place, right? So we are still 4 years only into this journey. But we are helping 20 organic farmers sell their produce online and getting them more visibility, etc. Right? So those people are obviously very thankful to the work that we are doing. Very, very thankful to the amount of support that they have provided to us, right? So that is definitely the farmers that, but very few of them are people who we have convinced as of now. Probably that's a much longer journey for us to become experts and then inspire enough to that impression is still there. Yeah, these are rich people who are willing to waste their money on this endeavor forever, and that impression is still there with a few people. But with the people working in the farm, there are things have changed quite a bit. They know that we are here in for the long haul, and they have started earlier. We used to keep having to remind them to do, after applying compost, please apply mulch also. So now they are much better. You give one instruction, they do the rest of the steps automatically, right? So when I said SOPs and processes are in place, it's just that they've gotten accustomed to the way we are doing agriculture, and they're seeing some benefits to it, and they're cooperating with us much better now.
How have you impacted lives of your all the workers at your farm, beyond just giving them a wage?
Yeah, so first about the wage. So as I said, it's a very fragmented agricultural industrial system, right? So you have work only few days of the year. Transplanting, you have certain set of people, they'll have work only during the transplanting. 3 seasons that you do transplanting, you have those few days, 10 days each season. So 30 days you'll have transplanting, right? And 30 days probably you have weeding of the rice field. So those women who are working here will be engaged, say 60 days to 70 years with a short work. The rest, they have to keep searching for jobs, because you have created an industrialized system where you have most of the work is not done at the farm level, but the work is being done at the fertilizer factory level or the pesticide factory level, right? So because we are producing all the fertilizers ourselves, green manure, composting, mulching, etc., there's much more work to do in an organic farm, right? So wage wise, I'm providing a much more stable wage than an industrialized agriculture system to this set of people. So with wage, of course, there's come stability, there comes, better health, because you're physically active throughout the year, you're able to pay for whatever you want, to good food throughout the year, etc., rather than just those 3 months when you had employment, all of that, right? So that economic empowerment that we have ensured only for the few in urban setting, organic system now ensures, organic system of agriculture or localized system of agriculture ensures that economic empowerment to a wider swaths of the population, right? And that's why but without economic empowerment, you cannot have social empowerment and the other cultural forms of empowerment and all of that. So while wages is
No,
important,
and
of course,
yeah,
their health improves, and their overall condition of the family improves as a consequence.
understood, understood. Also, you mentioned you have 20 cows. That's a lot of cows. No, I
Yeah.
mean, how are you able to manage those 20 cows?
Yes, we have two very capable people. One man called Kumar from Sivandipuram, and one woman called Arogyam. She had raised cows in her childhood, so both of them have experience with cows, right? So thankfully, we have been able to employ them and provide a stable wage to them, right? So we crowdfund for the cows from our family.
So,
From our friends, and it's not economically beneficial yet. I think eventually it will be, because we have started selling compost also now. In another couple of years, we'll reach a scale of sales and marketing where the money that we make from whatever products that we get should be enough to pay the wages for these people. Anyways, and we are raising as ethically as possible, as humanly possible. We don't over milk the cows. We let the calves drink milk first, and we
but
don't
what
give
was the
antibiotics and all of
thinking
that.
behind getting so many cows at this point of time?
Oh, we
What
had
was the
only seven,
thinking
eight. We
behind
got
that?
only
How
seven,
would
eight
you?
cows. They have reproduced and propagated, and they've
Oh,
become a
okay,
size.
okay, okay.
If
And
someone,
you were too attached to them. You didn't feel like selling off the calves, basically.
so we have not sold off any
You didn't feel
calves
like
yet, but
selling off the
eventually, if
calves. You
someone
wanted to
wants
keep them.
to buy, we ideally do not want to give them away for slaughter. We are not against people consuming meat, but if possible, if we can use them till because they have a special place in our spiritual and religious lives, we don't want to give them away for slaughter. We want to, if there are people who want to raise them, we want to look for people who would want to raise them for their manure, for the
Got
cow
it.
dung, for recycling of the fertility, right? There is a huge
What breed of cows are these? Sorry,
These
go
are
ahead. Go
local,
ahead. Please
nondescript.
complete.
There's not a breed. There's not a identified breed. Most of the cows in India are nondescript, right? So they are nondescript, but very local. They are very short. They resemble a breed called Tenpandi, which is a very short breed. Very
Okay.
they don't produce much milk, just enough for the cows and maybe a little more. Whatever selection we have done has improved the milk, increased the milk only by a little bit, and mostly for recycling fertility.
And
So there
now
is
I
one
have a
huge,
feeling.
sorry.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead. Go
So
ahead.
I just wanted to touch upon this, that there's a lot of because of this entire movement of veganism. There is this entire conception that animals are not really needed on the farms, and there are modern ways, or technically more superior ways to actually build fertility. There is a very small proportion of people that I know over the world who are doing a vegan agriculture. This is a very extreme way of doing agriculture. syntropic agriculture, multi-layer agroforestry, etc. Probably in 10-15 years, once there is enough rebuilding of soil health that I've done with the help of animals, probably I'll reach a stage where my food forest might not need any more compost, right? But recycling of fertility is much more efficient with animals, right? Compare recycling of fertility with domesticated animals with a factory system of the Faber Bosch process of manufacturing urea, right? You are taking crude oil, you are manufacturing hydrogen, you are taking atmospheric nitrogen, combining the two, making ammonia, making urea, and then transporting that from factories to all over the world. And that the amount of energy you produce, that you need to actually manufacture urea is massive, and the amount of transportation requirements is also massive. Whereas uh, local livestock, local goats and poultry, etc., they are going to recycle all of that fertility that you have around the farm, which is going to go to waste with grazing, and provide them very locally at a very very efficient in a very efficient manner, right? Methane for which cows are blamed,
Yeah.
for example, is a very short-lived gas, whereas greenhouse gas, whereas carbon dioxide, which this entire Faber Bosch process produces, a very very intense, very far living, high living greenhouse gas, right? So you need to compare the two whenever you say that livestock are not needed at the farm. It's great that to go more plant based, etc.,
Hmm.
but from a farm's perspective, livestock, I think, has been a savior in terms of building soil health.
And I think now that you have 20 cows, I think you'll see an accelerating journey from 1.1% to 3%. I think
Yeah,
it will
hopefully.
accelerate for you now that you have a
Definitely.
lot of cows,
Definitely.
right? So it'll be
Definitely.
interesting to see how your carbon percentage is
Yeah.
after soil organic carbon percentage is after a couple of years. I have a
Yeah. Yeah.
feeling that it will actually accelerate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Usually, what happens is that initially,
It takes
like just
time.
like when you are losing weight, right? Initially you
Yeah.
lose a lot of weight, then
Yeah.
yeah, gradually starts plateauing, right?
Yeah.
But I think because you've added cows, it's actually going
Yeah.
to accelerate rather
Yeah.
than plateauing out.
Definitely.
And
Tropical
so
soils,
let's
though
see.
2%,
It's going to be
3% is the
interesting.
maximum. So 1 to 2, I think, 0.15 to 1 took 5 years. Probably it will take another 5 years to go from 1 to 2. But I think ceiling is 2. Carbons, for soils to act as carbon sink, you can only do as much. The key is to reduce fossil fuel usage, which is what, taking from deep inside the ground and putting it into the air. The focus is actually reducing fossil fuel use, and most of this conversation around organic in industrial agriculture it misses that point. In industrial agriculture, you're still taking everything from the ground and putting it back into the air, whereas organic agriculture is more about recycling whatever you have and providing it back into the soil.
What percentage of food that you eat is right now grown at the farm, did you say?
Around 50%, I think. Almost the entire rice,
Okay.
part of the pulses, a lot of the oil seeds, coconut, groundnut, sesame, 50% of the vegetables, around 50% of the fruits, very little spices. I think it'll be slightly more than 50%. And we are okay with that. We don't want to be dogmatic and say that I want to grow all of my food. Garlic doesn't grow here, onions doesn't grow here in my farm, potatoes doesn't grow. So,
Hmm.
and these are things that we are very accustomed to. Pepper, we are just trying out. So there are certain food categories that are, we have gotten accustomed to because of a, globalized trade system, and we want to grow as much food for ourselves, but not be dogmatic and take it to 100% in any way. Yeah.
Right.
Dairy
Cool.
we
Okay,
get here,
let's
eggs we get here.
shift to the
Yeah.
last segment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ach. Let's
Yeah.
shift to the last segment where we will talk a little bit about the store, the online store, right?
Yeah.
So, when did you start it? What does it do?
Yeah.
What is the value that it creates?
Yeah.
Why should people buy from it?
Yeah. Yeah, so the idea was, of course, once we started hiring people, of course, first couple of years it was just me, Naushi, and one more uh, um, employee working at the farm. So there wasn't too much of a pressure to make, money. But the moment we realized that we can create much more impact if we take this message to more people, we started employing more people. And once you employ more people, you have to make more revenue. So we started just by making products that we were growing at the farm. Coconut oil was the first product. Palmyra jaggery was the next product. We did a moong crop, green gram crop. We did a bath powder. So we just started selling this to friends and family through our whatever phone calls and WhatsApp groups, etc. And then we started an Instagram page, a Facebook page, a Telegram group, and all of that. So once we started doing that, we realized that with such an informal system, you can only achieve as much scale. And every order, as soon as I receive an order or a phone call or what, I'm like taking a paper and pen. I used to have it in my. It was not possible to achieve scale, right? So technology helped, of course. An online store is much easier to manage than running everything on pen and paper. We are not anti-technology as much as we may seem to be. We want to embrace low carbon technology as much as possible, and social media helps us in that direction quite a bit, right? So we are using it to social media and this online store viversizelive.in. We use we started with just, say, first few months was just 5,000, 10,000 per month revenue. Now we have reached a revenue of 3 lakhs. We get produce from 20 different farmers. We have around 60 to 70 products. We are increasing the diversity of products also. We are actually thankfully in a district which produces a lot of diversity. We have the hills, we have the plains, so we get a lot of diversity of product. We get spices as well. Thanks to the diversity, we are able to offer, we are able to like provide a one-stop shop kind of a thing. If not the entire basket of goods, at least a decent 75 to 80% chunk of groceries that are typical South Indian household would need. We have ghee, we have edible oils, we have flours, we have rice, and we have lots of around 10 to 15 different categories, right? So the idea was
And
to
how do you manage the shipping? I mean, just to give a to listeners who kind of want to do
Sure.
this from their
Yeah.
farm as well.
Yeah.
How do you manage the shipping? Because you sell to all across India, right?
Yeah, thankfully we have a town nearby, just 3.5 kilometers from my farm. A DTDC office is right there, and post office is also just 4 kilometers away. So either DTDC or post office, direct to customer. These are people who are valuing the work that we are doing, so they don't. So D2C is slightly more expensive, mostly because of the shipping cost, right? You would know. So taking, in fact, initiative like Farmizen will help reduce that last mile connectivity cost that we have. D2C from directly Tirunelveli to a household in Chennai is slightly more expensive. So people who are willing to support us don't mind paying that extra cost. Whereas a platform like Farmizen will help me reduce, because I can send in bulk to Farmizen, and it might not be the disintermediation. It might not be a complete disintermediation. Like right now with my online store, I am the only intermediary, right, between the farmer and the customer. With Farmizen, it becomes two. But the conventional agri supply chain has 5 or 6 or even 7 layers, right, between the farmer and the customer, right? You have the buyer, and then you have the miller, and then you
With
have
the
the
farmer
wholesaler,
getting only
retail.
15% of the, with the farmer getting only like 15% of the
15 to 20%,
right?
and
In your case, in your store, when people buy from your store, what percentage does the farmer get typically?
Almost 70
from,
to 80%.
if people order directly from you?
70 to 80%. Whatever 20% margin is there is for me to pay the wages of the two people of the who have employed for the farm shop, right? So that's how agri supply chain should be.
I feel that people, there should be literally tens of thousands of viewer-sized life
Small businesses,
started
exactly.
all across India.
Exactly.
Right? That would
We
be
need
so
that kind
cool.
of diversity. We don't need the monocultures of our supermarkets where you have crushed the diversity. It seems like a supermarket seems like a very diverse place, but actually if you go to rice section, you'll have some 5 or 10 varieties, whereas India had 10,000 varieties. Yeah, I mean, you look at my store, you have 8 varieties. A small store like mine has 12 varieties now. So the amount of just diversity,
you have
that
more
Tirunelveli
varieties than a large 10,000 square feet supermarket in Bangalore, right? You have more varieties of rice than them.
So Tirunelveli as a small district can produce so much diversity. Why can't a supermarket have much larger diversity in all of the produce that you have, right? Native produce that you have, right? So that I think is building diversity in our food systems, disintermediating the agri supply chain. yeah, what's the point of so much technology that we have built here over the last 50, 60 years if we can't even connect the farmer and consumer together? Everywhere else you want to connect businesses to consumers, but in farmer and in case of groceries you don't want to do it. You still want to have a traditional system. Not even traditional, it's not even, I mean, calling it traditional is also fake. I mean, in India, where we were mostly a rural population, everyone was very close to their food source, right? It's only over the last 40,
Yeah,
50
yeah,
years that you have so much urbanization and you have moved away from. Actually, what I'm doing is right, traditional. I'm bringing food back, closer by telling the story of the food. What you are doing and what we are doing is much more what our ancestors were doing, right? We are just using the medium of
correct.
technology to do that same thing what our ancestors were doing, telling the story of the food, talking about it every day rather than talk about global problems of war and modern conveniences and all of that, right? And who became the
Right,
president
right,
in the
right, right.
in a country that has created so much destruction in the world,
Hmm.
Donald Trump.
And how did you like? Obviously, your initial set of customers, you got a lot from your friends and family and
Mm,
all of those. And the
mm.
next set of customers, I assume, would have been people who have discovered you on social media,
Yeah,
liked
and
your
friends of
stories,
friends,
liked
friends of
what you were
family, friends of
saying.
social media. Yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
Yeah, thankfully the blog helped because we started writing
Got it.
these stories down, documenting these down in our website. It helped us quite a bit
Hmm.
getting the word out. Those stories struck a chord with a lot of people, and I think the blog also helped quite a bit.
And do you see a lot of repeat purchases on your store as well?
Yeah,
I
finding new
assume so.
customers.
I think you
Yeah,
will
yeah.
probably have a lot of very
Yeah. Most
dedicated
of the people who
clientele.
are buying are, definitely. Most of the people who are buying are people who have loved our products and are continuing to buy from us month on month. Cost of new customer acquisition is quite high in a traditional grocery business, right? So, yeah, definitely.
Hmm, hmm,
And I
hmm.
want to keep it that way. I don't want to
Got it.
just
Got
keep
it.
on expanding and
Awesome.
expanding.
Understood.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I think we have taken a quite a bit of time.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Sudhakar, for
Thank
sharing
you.
your journey with us. And it's pretty incredible to hear somebody starting to do this when he was 30, 31,
Thank
right?
you. Thank
And
you so much.
now, I'm really glad also that it's starting to get into a level where it's sustainable, getting
Yeah.
into that infinite runway, right? So
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
which is very cool because
Yeah.
frankly speaking, we hear two types of stories, right? I mean, at
Yeah.
Farmizen, we have interacted with a lot of people who have started this sort of a journey. Usually, they are much older, right?
Yeah.
Usually, they're like 50 plus when
Yeah.
they undertake your journey.
Yeah.
And we do see successes, and we do see people who have kind of stepped back and said, "Oh, this is not for me," as well,
Correct.
right? So, I
Correct.
think I'm hoping that we will see a lot of people succeeding with their journey. And as we
Definitely.
have discussed before, I feel that folks like you have a very, very important role to play in fixing the food system. The
Yes.
government usually keeps talking about small farmers. The government does not really care about somebody who, had a crore in savings and bought 10 acres of land and shifted from housing. And they don't care. The government doesn't care about you because you are just one voter, right?
Correct.
Like,
Correct.
so it's very unlikely that you will see policies which help you. Unfortunately, that's the reality,
Yeah.
right? Because you
Yeah.
are folks like you are not going to be a vote bank.
Correct.
But I
Correct.
think people like you have a huge role to play because
Correct.
you end up educating consumers and you end up also inspiring people around you gradually.
Correct.
And imagine those 20 farmers, right? Those 20 farmers who are growing stuff. Earlier, they were either struggling to sell their produce or getting a very small percentage uh, uh, of the retail price, right?
Correct.
Now they
Correct.
suddenly have a way where, okay, it's like they're getting 70%. And that has been possible because you went there and tried to build a sustainable life for yourself, right?
Exactly.
So you kind of
Yeah.
became what we call a nodal farmer in the
Correct.
in the
Correct.
network. So I think it's very important for progressive farmers to become nodal farmers. And
Yeah.
see, some people also hesitate to talk about when they make this transition, right? Where they start off as a producer,
Yeah.
then they start also aggregating and selling produce.
Yeah.
Some people get a little hesitant about that part of the journey because it's like,
Mm.
oh, producing is cool, aggregating is just business, right?
Yeah.
But I don't
Yeah.
think that's true. Finally, you are
Correct.
trying to solve the problem of the food system, right?
Correct.
And
Correct.
uh, if you're producing for yourself and if you realize that, you know what, market access is probably the biggest problem out there,
To solve.
right?
Yeah.
If the market was there, for all your neighboring farmers to get 70% off the price that consumers are paying, a lot of them, as long as they're doing it organically, a lot of them would probably automatically shift to organic, right?
Yeah.
It's
And a
not
lot
that
of
they
these-
don't know how to do organic.
A lot of these
right?
consumers might become farmers as well and bring down the price of organic products eventually, right? Because they'll become a vote bank and probably drive policies
Correct.
towards organic agriculture. You never know. Yeah.
Correct. So I think so folks like you have a very, very important role to play, although you are in a minority, but
Yeah.
you have an outsized role to play, I feel, right? And that's why at Farmizen we always, we love working with folks like you. So we appreciate your time and wisdom and your discussions today, and
Thank you.
look forward to seeing 2% soil organic carbon percentage
Thank you.
at Vanaavil Farm, and a really successful farm stay option as well, which is coming up soon.
Yes.
And hopefully a much larger revenue stream on Vivasai's life as well, without giving up on the localized, personalized approach that has got you to where you are right now. Right?
Correct.
So cool. And thank you everybody for listening to us. And in the comments, we will leave the links to Vivasai's life and their Instagram profile. Please do follow them, support them, share the word. And I think this inspiring story, you should reach out and tell to other people as well that you could be 30 and you could still do the right thing and you could still go where your heart takes you. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye. Signing off.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the Farmizen Show, where we uncovered the delicious interplay between food, farming, and wellness, shaping a brighter, healthier tomorrow. Better for farmers, better for the planet, better for you.